Hello, fellow YouTube and watchers and followers and subscribers and haters and all that. Welcome. You know who the hell I am, Scott Flanagan. Well, I'm not going to argue with anybody. Of course, until there's a case study done on anything or actual video or actual anything that needs to be done to what happens to a car with an obese person in it, until the actual facts come out and it just tells you what they rate the car as through the testing capability. I love to see somebody actually take to the same vehicle of the same exact vehicle, at least with about a 600-pound guy in each of those vehicles, and ride them a daily basis and see how and make sure you have a baseline, of course, with a average normal weight person of those same rate, and see how the comes out for the facts of that. Until that day happens, there is no actual proof of an obese person causing these issues. I had cars all over my lifetime. For a long time when I was able to afford one before, and only car I had issues with, and all the times I drove a car and owned a car, the only one I had a problem with was an old Oldsmobile I had. But again, it was a used vehicle. It wasn't anything fancy or anything like that. Again, it was used. It was already wear and tear on it. Everything had problems already before I even bought it. Even the suspension was screwed on it. So, if you don't maintain the vehicle, problems will happen. It's like that. Angela, like the seat, and you're talking about broken the paneling on the van. We are looking at about how much I was going to plan to replace it for you, and I was already going to agreed upon it, but you went ahead and sold the van. So again, you already got rid of the van, and what you told me, somebody else screwed it up after that. So. And that's it. So, I mean, it's wear and tear. It's like you got to be constantly in the vehicle to cause problems. And again, you need a case study. Somebody needs to actually do it. There's nothing out there to prove otherwise. It's just everybody's saying this, saying that. No facts to back it up whatsoever. And I was reading upon, like, the average weight for per passenger maybe is 175 to 200 pounds per passenger. And some of our vehicles are rated to 850 pounds capacity. I mean, I'm not even talking about like sports cars with two-seaters and stuff like that. They're designed for lower weight, of course. And I'm talking about like minivans, compact cars. I'm talking about common vehicles that you drive around town. And this is what I'm talking about, not some freaking heavy-duty truck or anything like that. I don't know what, all this started is over because of my grandfather's Cadillac, first place. What happened was, he has to maintain your vehicle. His shocks and spring, I think it was his shocks that went out, his rear shocks in his back of his Cadillac. Of course, this is a Cadillac, okay? I'm pretty sure maybe probably a 2000, somewhere in there, Cadillac. Of course, parts are going to be very expensive for this car. Any vehicle is going to have maintenance, regardless how nice it is. You're still got to maintain it. Wear and tear. After a while, you're going to have to replace the part. And when you don't replace it, problems happen. You know, again, it's wear and tear. But again, it ain't because of all my weight and issues like that because of it was his problem. This all started over. I mean, even one time he had to get a loaner because there was a car problem he had. He got a loaner for a PT Cruiser. I don't want to talk about mean. Oh, he literally, the only way he's going to give me a ride anywhere in this loaner vehicle, the PT Cruiser that he was driving around until his vehicle got fixed. He wanted me to sign a contract to be responsible for any damages that may be caused by my weight. That's a bunch of bullshit. And you know what I fucking did? I told him to go fuck off and go to hell. And that's what I told him when he came up and pulled up with this PT Cruiser. That's what I told him. That's a bunch of bullshit. There is a sticker on your car vehicles inside the door, even indicates, even your owner's manual will indicate what your weight limit capacity is for passengers. Yeah, and most likely it might be 2, 3, and maybe 2, 3 passengers at the most at the time. Sometimes like maybe just I'll be the third passenger, maybe just 2 passengers. I don't even meet even with my weight won't meet the equivalent of the weight capacity of the car. And there's a lot, and like look at all the people when they haul their stuff when they have to move. They pack that car to the point to beyond capacity. Sometimes you can't get beyond the capacity of the weight of that car, anyways, unless you really stuff that car with a bunch of about 600-pound guys. Be a freaking clown car. This is a bunch of bullshit. I know, I was like, the panel, the only thing I busted on that seat and that van was the plastic paneling on that seat. The seat wasn't actually broken, it was just the paneling on the side. That was it. And it was like the tabs that were holding it in busted off. I was willing to replace it. But it never came down, it never came around to the day it wasn't. The van was already basically traded in before that even happened. But again, doesn't matter. There's overweight people have been riding vehicles heavy people. You know, I'm sorry, it's part of maintaining the vehicle. You're going to have to put maintenance in it, regardless of what's going to happen. Wear and tear is going to happen regardless. Your shocks and springs are going to eventually go on. Your struts, everything else, by just driving through Jackson, Michigan with all the potholes. Eventually, you're going to have to replace it regardless after a while. You want to make a major complaint? Start complaining to the city of the potholes in Jackson. That's not my problem with the potholes in Jackson. It's like have all these heavy vehicles driving through the Jackson or snow plows during the wintertime, putting nice little chunks of the street in there and don't bother to do the repairs that need to be done. It's like thankfully they finally increased the sales tax in Michigan, supposedly to help the whole situation now. And that's why so far we've seen a lot of road construction in Jackson here now. So it's because of this. You know, it's called maintenance of all vehicles. Vehicles going to have maintenance regardless. It's going to break down eventually. Something's going to break down. And it doesn't mean I'm going to help it along because of my weight. I was like, my first car, I had what? At least 2 years? You know what went first before anything else in that vehicle? My freaking ECM fuse. Kept on blowing after 2 years. It's probably because the modifications I made to it for my sound system, alarm system, I put in that car. Nothing else was wrong with the car. I had a nice 1987 Buick Century Limited. And I got that from my mom. And there was nothing really wrong with that vehicle whatsoever. Until the day I started putting extra stuff into it and things didn't get installed properly. Other than that, the car ran great. No other issues. No springs, no shocks. I had that car for 2 years. But again, I weighed maybe probably close to 400 pounds that time. But again, I drove that car for almost 2 years. Ever since my mom got it and when I got my license. So, let's see, what's the other vehicle? My Ford, I had a nice Ford Taurus. That was my last car. And that was years ago, around 2007. And it was a 2001 Ford Taurus. And the problem is, we knew it had problems with the transmission when we got the car. Again, that was the first thing it went in. It was the transmission. Again, the car ran great other than that. Got me around. No lean issues, no problems. Nothing got broken. My Toronado. I used to have a 1985 Toronado. I had for at least a year. Transmission went out. Well, actually, no, that's not transmission. Timing chain. All the common stuff that will go out of the vehicle after the use of time. And eventually it got too expensive to repair, so I had to junk it. Again, no struts, no springs issues, nothing there. And I said until I got my Oldsmobile I can't remember exactly. I know it was an Oldsmobile, and I think it was a 90, 91 Oldsmobile, and basically that had shocks and springs problems. But again, it was a used vehicle at the time. It was basically I just used it up till the day it started croaking. After my let's say my tie rod went out, not my tie rod, but my universal drive shaft went out. Took out the tie rod. I took the ball joints, and basically my transmission at the same time. Yeah, actually no, it was a ball joint. It was a ball joint that went out. Then it took out the universal drive shaft, and took out the transmission. Replaced the transmission and never ran the same since. But again, I drove that car to the day it pretty much couldn't drive it anymore. But again, it was a used car. The springs or shocks were about ready to give it anyways. What was it? Before I owned a car, my mom owned a what was it? Ford Tempo. Very tiny car. You know what a Ford? I'll say 90. Somewhere I think probably a 98 or 99 Ford Tempo. I think it was in there that my mom owned. Eventually, it's a small car, and I rode with her quite a bit in that car when she owned that car. But eventually, I think it was the struts they gave out. But again, that's just common wear and tear. It's not because of my weight whatsoever. It's called maintain the vehicle. Simple as that. And again, there's a few times I broke some paneling in a car. But other than that, because sometimes I don't get my feet over, or the panel, it's an odd place in the seat. That's the reason why the van panel broke on the side of the seat, because the way they designed that seat, because that panel was right on the edge of the seat, and when I sat down on that seat, that broke those things that hold that panel on there. That's why it broke, that panel, but the seat was still intact. Other than that, that panel was broke, but the seat was all worked fine. So there was nothing wrong with the seat other than the panel was busted. So, again, it was because of my weight there at that point. But not everything is because of my weight. I just got to be more careful sometimes when I go in a vehicle. That's it. I don't mean any times I've been in my stepdad's truck and I haven't broke nothing in that truck yet. But again, he's becoming more of a pain in the ass about me being in the truck still, and nothing's been broke. And he doesn't want me to ride that truck and be in that truck anymore whatsoever. Again, there's nothing broken in that freaking truck whatsoever. And it's a truck in the first place. It's meant to carry heavy stuff. So, again, who's being, I'm not saying that everybody's trying to be mean to me, but again, it's ignorance half the time. 2, and I deal with it every time with Grandpa, and the ignorance of that, and it's stuff he never looked it up or see what be the possible reasons what happened to his cars. He kept on, again, blamed people, even though after we replaced those shocks, he never had a problem since. Those shocks, ever since we got new shocks in it, that car ran great. None of the shocks broke, nothing wore out. Those brand new shocks. Cars wear out. It happens. It's not because of your overweight people in your vehicle. It's wear and tear by driving around town and on pothole streets and train tracks, going over them constantly, hitting curbs. You name it. Something your car bounces on a bump or something. That's wear and tear on those shocks and springs and struts. Anything you do on these roads and streets, and any car, if you hit a bump or anything, that's from that wear and tear. So, again, that's ignorance of trying to blame your car issues on somebody else, which has nothing to do with them whatsoever. Just being ignorant and mean and stupid. So, that's just basically it. And I will admit to things I have broke. You know, I said a few things I had broken down the road in a car. Usually it's a panel or two in a vehicle. That's because sometimes I get caught, my feet gets caught on a panel and I didn't pay attention. I'll snap the panel. Or, a poorly designed seat. I hate to say it was because it wasn't the greatest design either on that seat, because where the panel was right on the edge of the seat, and all it took me just to sit. Basically, I sat on the panel itself when he sat in that van. So yeah. So I was willing to replace that panel. We even looked the part up online, if you remember, Angela. So and it wasn't that expensive to replace. So we're about ready to do that at that point. We're just was waiting for the money, but again, by the time they come down to it, you basically trade the van in. So that's all it was. It's basically it. But the actual seat in the vehicle, the struts and springs were okay. Other than that, and the seat itself was okay. Again, it wasn't actual broke. Now that's what I'm talking about. It's actual the shocks and springs and struts and stuff like that. That's what they're mostly concerned about because of my weight, not because of little minor stuff because of a panel or two you got broken. It was basically worried about replacing their struts and springs and shocks and stuff like that. That's what I'm talking about basically when I'm talking about, because they're worried about that stuff. You know, they're not worried about breaking what's inside the vehicle. Anybody can break something in a vehicle by accident, not because they're overweight. Anybody can done it. It doesn't matter. Accidents happen at that point. But again, if it's because of my weight, yes, I agree with it. And in an accident, and I know it can fix it, like it was fixable, that panel was fixable, all I do is order a new panel and replace it. Simple as that. But it never happened. Alright. Okay. For me, nothing but rat and rave for at least about 18 minutes here. But again, looks like so far nobody has come through for a ride, and that's a bunch of crap because I'm not going to be going to my grandma's funeral. And anybody wondered why, you know why? Because nobody was going to give me a ride to the funeral. Because over some stupid crap it was mentioned years ago with my grandfather, because the shocks and springs that were back at the Cadillac, he made a big deal out of it, and he's just like telling me, it's like he told everybody who had weight on them to sit dead center in the back of that car every time. Not just me, even anybody who was big. My Uncle Bernie, he was a pretty huge guy himself. He even asked him to sit dead center of the seat every time. Anybody who was overweight, you know. He was an overweight guy himself one time. He lost his weight. But again, you know, the basically because of eating habits, and he did have a thyroid problem years ago, that's why he was a skinny gentleman back a long time ago, because he had a thyroid issue. He had hypothyroid, and that's why he kept on keeping the weight off. And after they removed it, he gained his weight. That's the reason why he got big. Because of a medical issue. Like my problem was a medical issue with my pituitary adenoma. Don't blame me about my pituitary adenoma. I already have a video or a show that I took the meds for the pituitary adenoma, and I still have it, and it still caused my weight problems. Again, yes, I need to change some of my eating habits. I do agree with that, but again, that is a whole different story. But again, just maintain your vehicle like you should maintain it. It won't be no problems. But again, it costs money, of course. Everybody's tight for money. Don't blame it on somebody that's been in your car is because your springs and shocks or struts or anything that makes your vehicle bouncy. Blame it on somebody else's the weight because of their weight. That's not the case whatsoever. So there is no proof and no study on it. Until that day comes, it's actually somebody take a vehicle, two similar vehicles, and do and do one with a skinny guy and the other one with a big fat guy like me, and see how, and do a whole long tier term of it, and see how much maintenance you have to do a vehicle, compare to them both, and see what's the difference. Exactly. Until that day comes, there is no proof of it whatsoever. You're just seeing what you see in information on weight limits is based from the basically factory itself, not actual test. So that's it. So until an actual test is done and proven of it, then I would say I'm wrong. Other than that, till that day comes, it's a bunch of shit. So I'm gonna call this video because my time is about up on that. Anyways, but thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and whatever you want to think about weight is the cause of your vehicle problems. I don't know. Nobody knows. They don't have the facts. So until the day happens, have a good day.